following is a presentation of Western Farmers Electric Cooperative. A tornado in May, a blizzard in December, and an ice storm in January. It's probably not the kind of climate change Will Rogers envisioned writing his famous comment about Oklahoma's unpredictable weather. However, WFEC line crews faced the challenge of this most recent disaster in a very predictable way. They knocked the ice off their trucks and hit the treacherous roads to help restore power to their fellow Oklahomans. The ice storm struck January 29. The weight of the ice piling on line meant cracked transmission poles and mile upon miles of electric transmission and distribution lines came suddenly crashing down. Thousands of people were instantly without power in freezing temperatures. WFEC crews were among the electric utilities that ramped up immediately to meet this crisis. They headed out with an attitude of typical stoicism to do what they do best: get the power restored to the people as quickly as possible. And nowhere does the skill, tenacity, and determination of line crews really shine more than in facing the daunting task of rebuilding line in dangerous conditions. Much of WFEC's transmission line damage and outages occurred in the southwestern and south central areas of the state. WFEC crews reacted quickly to move poles and parts to critical areas. One of those crews was working near Mangum, Oklahoma. Lead line supervisor Sammy Stubbs is a veteran of many ice storms. He reflected on the typical lineman's attitude.
You know, that's one thing we always try to keep our focus on is the consumer. Even though we're on the transmission side, we understand that there's a lot of people that depend on us. And I always look at the consumer as an individual, as myself. You know, that there's people out there that need electricity and they depend on it, that may have a machine or something that they rely on. So to me, always in the back of my mind, it's very important, you know, that the consumer get their lights on as quickly as possible. And I think that drives a lot of the guys that work at Western Farmers on the line crew. So it's, the morale of the guys is usually up because they know that when the substations come on, then it's a good feeling to know that people will have their power back.
Stubbs also acknowledged the risks inherent in line crew work.
Ice is different in many aspects. One is the danger involved. I visited with you when you come down to Mangum Tap, and we was talking about the contractors that were down there working, and they were putting an arm up and just two structures away while they were putting an arm up, one had broke. That's the stuff that you have to deal with when you operating in the ice, is the danger of something else falling while you're up there working. I know of many accidents, not within Western, but within other companies where linemen had been hurt based on they were up there working and the lines were still loaded with ice and something else giving way and injuring guys. So the ice is a real risk in itself because the dangers that involve with the ice falling or the load that it can cause, because when a structure happens to go down, then you're putting more stress on the next structure that is still up. So the danger is always going to be higher when you're working in the ice.
About 15 miles of line was rebuilt as a result of the ice storm damage. Over 20 substations in Altus Air Force Base were also without power. All substations were online by February 4th. As they have always done, fellow cooperatives came to the aid of those in need of assistance. And numerous contractors were also an important part of the work mix to expedite repair to distribution cooperatives, WFEC, and the investor-owned utilities distressed by the storm. Still, the arrival of a small crew from Lee County Electric Cooperative that drove all the way from Lovington, New Mexico, must have felt a little like Davy Crockett's Kentuckians arriving at the Alamo. While the situation wasn't as dire, it heartened the WFEC crew that had already been waging war with the elements for almost 5 days when they arrived.
You know, that's a blessing when we see them guys. They've been there, they lend a hand to us, and we lend a hand to them, and it's all one big family. And it's the mud issue is, it just takes so long. You know, you can almost double or triple your time it would normally take to change a pole or what have you, because you've got to drag heavy equipment in and out to where you need to go. For one instance, we were down there in around Gould, and we had drug our trucks a mile and a half back into the line because the roads were so muddy that we couldn't get up and down the roads without a dozer. A lot of people know that we're out there working, but they wonder why it's taking so long. But you know, if they only knew that we were dragging trucks a mile and a half to get to the line to get in there to do the work. But a lot of people understand, and we try to explain to them when they come by and want to know why their electricity's not on. So, and a lot of people are understanding, but they still want to know why their electricity's not on. And of course I would be too. I'd be wondering why my electricity wasn't on. The cooperative as a family, it's great that you can pull these guys in, because without them you wouldn't have those lights back on that quick.
Our co-op linemen work long hours getting the electricity back to our members, and it's a job that each of them takes seriously, often leaving their own families in the dark, not knowing when they'll return. But they know it's worth the risk to be part of something unique, something bigger than themselves, and something that makes the world a better place.
You know, like I said earlier, we're out here working, and our families are without power, and you're not there to help them stay warm, but yet you're out here trying to help the other consumers to stay warm. So in effect, it does give you some gratitude that you're able to get power back on for those people, and knowing that sooner or later you're going to get the power on to your family too. So it's hard not to be there with them, but that's the job we chose, and the life of the lineman sometimes, that you just have to be out there in those conditions, and your family just have to wait till you get done to get home.
Well, that's our update for this month. Thank you for joining us.